morning, everybody, or good afternoon if you're in the UK and Europe and Africa and points like that. Thank you and welcome to our little live presentation or live Q&A that we have going on here on Thursday mornings. A lunch and learn for some of us. Sorry, kind of without the lunch. I need to do one of these one day where we talk about really cool, different recipe things that we can do for a quick lunch. But mine's kind of boring because right now it's usually I'm trying to eat better and work on my girlish figure. So that usually involves vegetables. I lost 68 pounds at one point. You wouldn't know it now because I fell off the wagon, so to speak, and gained a lot of it back. But during that time, that was my lunch, was 2 bags of frozen vegetables, and it worked very, very well. So glad to have everybody. My name is John Nelson, and appreciate you jumping in with this. Now, I'm going to. Sorry, we're running a little bit late this morning too, by the way. But I'm going to issue a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a housekeeping here, an offer, if you will. So I see all these people out here posting that they're Go High Level experts or they're experts in one form or another. What I don't see is a lot of actual training. I even see some giveaways of people jumping in here, but I don't see any training of anybody or anything. So let me make you this offer. If you're willing to come on and educate us about some aspect that you're particularly good at of Go High Level or marketing strategy or business strategy, then DM me after the program here. Let me know what you would like to come on and talk about, and I'll be the host, but you get to present your ideas. And yes, at the end, we'll do a little pitch for your services and as to what you're on there doing. So happy to do that. So, look me up. Now, understand that presenting like this is a little different than doing, say, a Loom video or something. It's a lot more real time. You have to condense some more things. So we will talk about that prior to you going on. But it is an opportunity. I'd love to see what some of the expertises out there are. I mean, I've got a list of topics that I can go through, and then I can pull in people to go through. But I'd also rather hear from you. If there's something that is of particular importance that you have mastered out there, or something that you feel is important to have a solution for, and you have the solution because it's a big topic right now, then let's talk about it. So send me a private message after this in the group here, and we will and let's see what that can look like. I'll connect up with you, and we'll have a call, and we'll talk about it, and then we will get you scheduled to be a part of our live Q&As. This is a team sport, by the way, so want this to be something that is important to you all as well. So just wanted to put that out there. And so, because I have a lot going on, I've run an agency. I'm doing the Atlas Agency Launch Lab training stuff. We have some other things that are about to start happening. So there's a lot going on. So I'm grateful for the help, quite honestly. So it'd be good. And it'd be good to talk to some other folks and kind of get the pulse of what's out there. So that's my advertisement. That's my reach out. That's my challenge to you all. So would love to see what you come up with, and let's talk about it. Meantime, let's talk about getting paid in Go High Level. And this is, I'm not going to do this justice because there really is a person I need to get on here with me to talk about it, except he is extremely knowledgeable in it. And I'll go ahead and give his company a plug. It's called ECI, Electronic Commerce International. And they are a credit card processor. And I am supposed to be a sales agent for them, but it has been awfully slow for me getting started in that respect. So the founder of that, one of the founders, it's a couple now that owns it. And they're like a lot of us, where they used to have the big agency. They had all the people. They had people running everywhere. Handling credit card processing, setting that up for businesses across the world. They had the big office in Las Vegas. But then they decided, there are different ways to do this, and technology allows us to make that happen. So they have scaled down to a much, much smaller size, and brought in people to help, run that virtually, as a lot of us have. So that's kind of where they're at. But it's a cool story. Very, very knowledgeable about the credit card industry. And so I'm going to try to beg and plead and make that right, and maybe I can get him to come on and talk to us about that someday. So because it was fascinating to me, it was just so much. It was almost like overload, drinking from a fire hose sort of thing. It was tough to process all that and get it through. But so I'm going to try to do this justice the way he would explain it. But I'm not sure how good of a job I'm going to do, but I will do the best I can as a digital marketer, right? So let's talk about the basics. So for the purposes of our discussion, there are basically merchants or payment processors, and there are payment gateways. And this all has to do with a couple of things. So what we're ultimately going to be talking about, I'll just go the spoiler alert here, is a payment gateway. Everything that's set up and connected in GoHighLevel, you set it up as a payment gateway. So what that basically means is two things. One, it means I'm going to actually go out of order here, because the difference really has to do with who is handling the security of the transaction. Who is the one? Because ultimately, if I buy something from you, your bank has has access to that account. Or if it's a credit card, your credit card has access. They control that account. And so you go buy something from me, and so the cost of that is debited from your account, your credit card or your bank account, and comes over to me and is deposited into my bank account. That's essentially how the transaction works. So the question is, do you have are you, as a marketing agency, standing right there in the proverbial sense, making that happen, taking from one to put to the other? Or, which is much more common the case, and what we're talking about here, do you employ a company uh, called Stripe or Authorize or PayPal or NMI or any of those that are payment gateways, so it's their personnel that are standing there, not physically, obviously, but in the digital sense. They're taking the payment from you and handing it to me, and I don't have to worry about that because I have authorized them to do that and to handle that for me. And so they take in, as well as by buying the thing, are allowing them to make that transaction happen, because it's what they do. It's what they're good at. They do it all day, every day. So there is a higher price to pay for that, depending on how hard the money is to move, and depending on how secure everything has to be, and what measures have to be in place so that credit card numbers don't get stolen and fraud doesn't happen and other things start going on there. So excuse me. So you have that. So this is very, very heady conversation. And I'm trying to make this as not heady as possible. Where your eyes glaze over and you stop thinking about this. Kind of like talking about GoHighLevel to anybody who's outside of marketing, including clients sometimes. But this is all to say, all these credit card processors, bank transfer processors. In the case of something like WeChat, it's their account, the whatever bank processes that, controls that money. You are paying a company whose sole job it is to make that transaction happen and to make sure no data gets lost, no credit cards get stolen, and the money ends up where it's supposed to end up. So that's what we're doing here, but that does change to employ them to do that means you'll pay a little bit higher processing fee to make that happen, because everybody gets their cut along the way. But the thing they don't tell you is, if you're going to be the merchant, if you're going to be the payment processor, and some people are, there are reasons to do that, then you have to worry about the security. You have to do those. Yes, you're paying a lower fee to somebody else to make that happen. You still have to pay a base fee to each bank to make that happen, but you're the one handling all the rest of it and not paying somebody else to run security for you. And so, yeah, you might save money, but yet here you are still paying somebody else to run security or to handle that expertise, or paying employees to do that sort of thing. So, setting up a payment gateway is the easiest and quickest way to do that, but it means it means you give up a little bit in what they call points. Um, it's not points in the true sense of the word, but you give up money to do that, because you're paying it to somebody to make sure that doesn't happen, that craziness does not happen. So does that make sense? It gets easier, I promise. Okay, so let's talk about the different payment methods that GoHighLevel currently deals with. Okay, and I apologize, I was going to get into, I use Stripe. I'm in the process probably of changing to authorize.net, which is both of which are one of the two here, for reasons of dealing with that other company, actually, with the company I'm ECI that I mentioned earlier, and not really any other reason, but the basic principles are the same. So Stripe is PayPal is really the one they started with. Everybody there are people in the US that really, there's a great book called The PayPal Mafia. If you ever find it, it talks about some of their practices associated with eBay in the early 2000s, and some of the stuff that went on will really get your attention. PayPal has sought to clean up their image and clean up their act, and so they have largely done so. And so they have become just they offer lots and lots of services, but they have focused in on what they're supposed to be good at, is being a payment processor and doing that sort of thing. So they have cleaned up that image a lot, but yet there are some people, particularly in the United States, who still have a bad taste about it. But nonetheless, it is supported. It does work. It's one of the first ones GoHighLevel started with, because it was there, and because they could accomplish some things internationally with it that the second partner they added, Stripe, could not. And Stripe wasn't necessarily, may not been around or as prevalent at that time. So second one they added is Stripe. So we're sort of going in reverse order, but this is the order it's listed is kind of I don't want to say, it's probably the order of, if you were to add percentages of the number of people that use these, this is probably where you would end up, top to bottom, with Stripe being the most prolific. It's the one that the most people are using, mostly because it's been the one baked into GoHighLevel the longest. And honestly, they do a good job. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. So Stripe is a great way to do it. It has the most integration. It's been around with GoHighLevel the longest. It's not the oldest in this group, but it does a good job for what it does. And so it's very easy to use. It's free to use, except for they get paid through every transaction, and they offer some other services in advance. But the base level of it is easy to use and set up to start accepting credit cards and bank transfers and that sort of thing. So very, very easy to get going. So Stripe is there. Now, as of last year, 2022, or actually maybe even this year, I think it was this year, back in January, February of this year, they brought on authorize.net. So authorize.net has actually been around. It's with PayPal as to who's been around the longest. But in terms of credit card processors, authorize.net has been around a very long time. So let me try to start. Let me back up for a second. So Stripe is great, but Stripe is not available in every country. In fact, if you go look at the GoHighLevel boards, there are lots of issues posted about that, the message boards, about problems with Stripe not being accepted in everybody's country, or for whatever reason. It's kind of North America centric, but it is accepted in some other places, and so, but there are problems. It's not accepted everywhere. Authorized.net, on the other hand, is accepted a whole lot more places. And I think the numbers for everybody are changing and growing and expanding, but that's been Authorized.net sales point for a long time. Is out of 180 countries or something, they're accepted in most of them. There are far fewer that it's not accepted in versus the ones it is. So it's a great way. It operates a lot like Stripe in the terms of GoHighLevel setup. Now, one thing I've seen on this board, one of our students in the Atlas Agency Launch Lab had a problem with this, and others do too, is that whenever you, and I did too, frankly, whenever you go set up Authorized.net, it gives you a choice. Do you want the merchant, account, or do you want the payment gateway? Harkens back to our conversation before. So you are setting it up as a payment gateway. So they are the ones handling the transaction. They are the ones doing everything. So you can set up all the forms, you can set up all the everything, but at the end of the day, when it comes to somebody putting in their credit card number, they're doing it on one of these systems that are baked into your form. So then they do it. They're putting it's like giving your credit card through a window, and that window goes to the pay. It's not in your store. It's, imagine a window in the back, and when you reach through just a little bit, it goes to there's somebody with a bank on the other side there with a little credit card machine that runs your credit card. So that's it's overly simplistic, but that's kind of what it's like. So so you have to set up Authorized.net as a payment gateway. Once you do that, it seems to function just like Stripe does, but it's available in more countries. Then there's NMI, which I hadn't heard of until I started going down the credit card processing route. And my understanding with it, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure people will, but NMI, I mean, it works in the United States and Canada and North America, but it's really in a lot of other countries. It's used primarily, its focus is in some of the other countries. I would hazard a guess, maybe some of the countries that Stripe doesn't serve as well. But it is accepted in other parts of the world. But GoHighLevel has decided that, along with PayPal, all four of those there are supported in their platform. I've not set up NMI. I haven't had any experience with it, but I think it may serve some of the countries that the others don't. So all would be good to look into when you're considering who's going to process your payments for different things. And sort of do your own research, compare and contrast, talk to people who have had. I think the GoHighLevel experience is probably about the same. The only one that's different is a little bit is PayPal. It's a little bit more limited in some respects, but among Stripe, Authorized.net, and I would presume NMI, the experience is very, very similar. And we'll talk about some of that in just a little bit. Then the fifth thing, we just want to throw it in there because I know there'll be somebody jumping up and down going, well, okay, QuickBooks is here and all these others are here. And I use, Wave accounting for those of you who have access to that, myself included. So yes, those are options as well. They are external. They are not processed directly within here. You can, like in the case of Wave, and I suspect, which is it's an accounting software and it's really well done, but it's not available in very many places at the moment. And they make their money from oddly processing credit cards and from doing payroll, mostly in the United States, maybe Canada as well. I don't think they're in the UK, but I don't know. But they're a cool little service that's basically free, and it's very good accounting software. But then there's QuickBooks that online that and has been around a long time and wants to remind you of that from time to time. But they are integrated into GoHighLevel, whereas Wave is not. So, and others like it. So you can use any accounting system that you want, and if they process credit cards, that's fine. You're welcome to use that. Just know that you are processing them outside of GoHighLevel. Now you can perhaps take and embed. So like Wave has a feature where you can post like on a website or a Facebook page or website or something like that, where they can actually fill out the form there. So again, that's that window concept. So if I want to accept a credit card right out on my website, I have a place where you put in a credit card number, but that's all coded in. That's going to Wave. That's reaching through the window that is to Wave accounting, and letting them and then filling out the information there, and then they take it from there and they handle the transaction, and my website does not. So you can do the same thing inside GoHighLevel with something like that, but you can't. It's harder than to, then it doesn't. It's hard for it to track any of the services. You kind of have to build that in with with third party integrations like a Zapier or a Pabbly or somebody like that. Integrately. There's a host of those now that do those integrations, and so you can make some of that happen and get some limited functionality. But these first four, really, in particular, are already baked in. That you can put them into funnels, or in websites. You can put them into forms. You can put them into all kinds of different things, and they make it very, very easy to do that. So because everything's already, there's even a one and two click to 1 and 2 page payment deal that you can bake into any of that already into GoHighLevel if you're using one of these top processors. But wanted to acknowledge the others there. There's plenty of opportunity there. So sorry guys, a little heady. This is I don't know how to make this interesting, but it's something you're probably going to have to deal with, how you process payments. And that's something we're going to get into in just a few minutes. So we're going to try to do some little tips and tricks, with apologies for not having to get in to being able to get in time to show the products and show how that. I mean, I was going to jump into my Stripe account and show you my products are set up there. I mean, I'll talk about that in just a minute. But in the meantime, let me take just a quick second, and this is the last time because it's this Saturday, so you won't have to hear about this anymore. But if your agency is really at a point, if you're at a point that you're saying, you know what, I've been doing this marketing thing for a while, I'm not getting the clients I want. I'm getting burnt out. I'm not providing the service. Their clients are cutting me because I'm not providing the services that I set out to provide. And this is just not working out like I want. I still love marketing. I still want to be here. I still want to be offering this to people. Then consider coming and letting us pour into you a little bit on Saturday. There's going to be 5 of us. We're all a part of Atlas Agency Launch Lab. It's a training program. It's a 12-week, 90 days training program for digital marketers and people who want to get into this space, or who really want to up their game in this space. If you're a freelancer, that's fine. But the idea is we're going to work with you and be setting up for you while you watch. By the way, I referenced on Tuesday the name of so I'm gonna properly use the analogy today, because I went and did my research and figured it out. There is a company here in Houston, Texas, where I am, called Hennessy Performance Engineering. Okay, Hennessy Performance Engineering, like the liquor. So and what they do is they take either existing factory vehicles, or they sometimes kind of create some hybrid things from scratch, and they create some amazing vehicles. Now, bear in mind, they are $200,000 and $300,000 amazing vehicles, US, but they custom build each one of them. There's an article you can search about Michael Jordan taking delivery of a car from Hennessy, of a truck, I think it was, from Hennessy, that had well over 1,000 horsepower. I mean, it was they don't make a stock vehicle like this, but he had a nice long road he could run it down, and it'll do 200. I think I saw somewhere, I heard an interview with the gentleman who runs Hennessy, and he said that vehicle would do like 200 miles an hour, 210 miles an hour without even thinking about it. So, and he just said it just kept going. It just kept getting faster and faster and faster. So imagine that as your marketing agency. So this vehicle is being built alongside a very high performance vehicle. And while that's happening, you're watching the whole process. You're talking to the mechanics. You're talking to the designers. They are showing you every single thing that they are doing. and you contribute a little bit to it, but really they're just pouring knowledge into you the whole entire time that your vehicle is being built, and you're right there with them, right next to them, watching this happen. And then at some point, maybe they, get it ready a little bit, and you take a short test drive, and then you bring it back in, and then you make some more changes and some more tweaks, and make sure everything is absolutely the way you always wanted it. And then at the end of that time, it takes them 12 weeks to do that. Let's just say at the end of that time, they hand you the keys, and then they make sure everything is good. They test drive it with you. They answer any questions. They make any changes that you have just right there. So that's what Atlas Agency Launch Lab is like. We go through this with our students. They are guaranteed to come out with at least one client right off the bat that's paying them money to recoup the cost of the program. And we have a couple that have, they have like 7 or 8 calls lined up now. And we're trying to work with them, because we actually close only the first 1 or 2 for free. So we have some options for that, but they're finding themselves with great problems in that what they're doing is working so well that they're starting to have people lined up, and they're still going through the course and are struggling with that a little bit. So we're helping them to come along and realize that success and to not lose it. So there's fantastic tips, fantastic things that we share with them that I promise you haven't heard most of them before. Pretty amazing. So you're going to get a taste of that on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That's about, what did I put, 5 or 4 p.m. London time, 4 or 5 p.m. London time, if you're in the UK. Sorry, folks in Australia and New Zealand now, and in the Eastern Hemisphere, we've got a solution for you too, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we will go live with this. We already have the lineup. I'm going to be on there talking about the top 10 ways that you can make money with, GoHighLevel as soon as you set it up right away with your clients, and that gets into some of the fundamentals. We're going to talk about brain spotting. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to and how to incorporate that into what we do. We're going to talk about prospecting and sales, look at it in a way that you haven't before, but it's getting real results. Not just us; it's other people that do this the way we do it, and they're getting tremendous results. That's what we're going to start with, and so just tons of value for your free time. On Saturday. So if you want to do that, there's the website to go to, atlasagencylaunchlab.xyz/webinar. Domains are being a little goofy with us, so we had to go this route. So, and I will put that in the chat. Love to see you guys. Get signed up for that. Show you're there. We have giveaways. We have some really cool giveaways. I'm going to be giving away snapshots from GoHighLevel of the different fundamentals, things that I do. There's some other really neat stuff that's happening. And one lucky person, if you sign up for the courses, one lucky winner is going to get their entire program paid for. So keep that in mind. And we're starting October here. We still have a little bit of room left. And then November will come and the prices will go up. So great time right now to get that opportunity in before it gets too far ahead. But I hear you. Everybody's selling training programs. So come Saturday for free, nothing but your time, and see what we're all about, and see if this is something that you might be interested in investing your time and your money in, because you will get a tremendous amount out. Okay, that's my last pitch for that. It's very important. It's for what's going on. We hope you'll give it a shot, and love to see you guys on it. So let's talk then, but you'll have to get the special instructions on the website itself. So back to what we're doing, and credit cards. In fact, the Atlas Agency Launch Lab deal was probably far more interesting. But I hope we get to some of the good stuff now. Okay. So some of this is things that I learned the hard way, because I'd get something all set up one way, even though I'd read, some of the help and support documents in GoHighLevel, and then have to go back and rework it and retool it. And here's one of them. Set up your products. Once you select a payment gateway to use, set up your products there first. GoHighLevel tells you this. Do it. Um, because there is an interaction that goes back and forth between your payment gateway and GoHighLevel. And to make all this happen, to make those forms happen, to make your invoices, if you use GoHighLevel to generate invoices, which you can, it has to be set up properly, and you can't just go into GoHighLevel and start setting up products. They don't sync back the other direction. They tell you they don't sync back the other direction. Don't do it. So the absolute best thing you can do is set up first your products in your gateway of choice. Stripe makes this very easy. I haven't tried it at authorized.net, but like I said, I think it's very similar in the way that it does everything. So you'll want to set. You'll have a heading. You'll have a description as to what the item is, and then you will have a price. And now, where they may or may not, you may have to work through is if there are variations. Let's say, for example, so everything that I sell is monthly for the most part. The services that I sell are month to month. And I want my clients to have that. I mean, I'll get you a contract if you really want a contract. We were having this discussion this morning in another situation. If you really want a contract, I'll get you a contract. But I would rather you have the assurance that I have to sing for my supper, as so to speak, every 30 days. I have to continue to provide value for you. And also, services may be added, services may drop off. Some of them do have a bit of a lifespan in marketing. So once they're done, you don't need to. I mean, it'd be awesome if you get to charge these high amounts for services that nobody uses. That'd be great. It's a great gig if you can get it. But if you're really in the business of providing true value to your clients, you will score many, 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 many points by saying, you know what? Okay, we don't need that anymore. Let's drop that off and save you a little bit of money. It's already doing its job. We've built that website for you. We don't need to charge you that very high amount of money just to maintain it. There's still something we still got to, we'll still maintain it, but there's going to be a much lower cost associated with that than there was to build it, say, in the first place. So all that is a tangent to say, set up your products first, and then deal with the variants there. So I do have one product variant that is, if you sign up with me for a year, I give you 2 months free. Okay, just for easy math. So I would put that, I believe in Stripe, how I did it was I added it and then added a separate product. Actually, no, I didn't. In Stripe, you could, it was such that I could add a variation of it. So if you look under one of my system bundles that I have that I use as a foundation called Local Work, say, for example, that has a lot of local facing promotion things. There's a monthly cost, and then right below it, there's a thing you can set up that's the annual cost. And then it will show both, and it will let you differentiate which one is which. So I suspect authorized.net's the same way, and all of that will pull over into GoHighLevel. Now, at least in the case of Stripe, and you'll have to look at all the help documentation for any of the others, the authorized.nets, the NMIs, even PayPal. PayPal's pretty limited in what they'll do after once you get the basics in there. But if there are changes in that amount, so once it's already in there, if you decide to change it inside of GoHighLevel, the price that shows up, you can do that. You can change the price inside GoHighLevel on a product that is already there, and it will push it back to Stripe in that case and update it. So you can't initiate this like messaging. You can't initiate it, but you can respond. You can update. So that's out there. So yeah, get your products lined up first, and go from there. Now, okay. I'm just I'm just trying to think through this. Okay, so next thing you want to do is map out your payment workflow. And this is even headier on a heady subject. Okay. Like, okay, so you have, if you're going to, I'm a big business process mapping person. Okay. So I like to understand what is the process by which things happen. What is one step, then this step, then this step, then this step. And that's to make a sale. Okay. If I'm going to make sure somebody gets paid, this is part of fulfillment. So if I'm going to make sure I get paid for my services, what does that look like? Well, first they go to a funnel page that I created, and it has a one-step sale where you put in the credit card, and there's one step and two step. One step, it puts everything on the same page, payment information, address, everything associated with the credit card, say. And then from there it goes to the thank you page and on. Two-step, it just splits that out. So it's credit card first, then address, phone number, whatever associated with the card for billing, and then it goes on. So, and then after that, I know that then goes to the, that goes over to the payment processor, and then the money and they take care of it, and the money shows up in my bank. So where this comes into play is when you're doing things like invoicing. Okay, what is the process when somebody, from the time when somebody says yes to the time money shows up in your bank? What are the process steps that happen? This can help solve a lot of payment issues that I see with people, that I hear about, that I see in forums and chats and Facebook groups and all sorts of things, is understanding how does the money flow from one to the next, not just from one bank to the other, but from the client coming in and putting their card information. How do they get their credit card or bank account information to you, or to your payment processor to make this happen? So understanding a little bit about how that works, enough to map out that process, even if you sit there and just make a outline. So you have point one, this happens, step one, this happens, step two, this happens, step three, this happens. I'm going to take a little side trip. I'm going to add one that says A, and it may be, client comes to this place and fills out something. Or a better example, I send them an invoice. They click the thing on the invoice, and then it goes to a web page that I have to have set up, and then they pay it. Who's handling that? Well, QuickBooks is handling that, or Wave is handling that, and they have their own little pages. And so all that is to say, try to, as best you can, map out and understand in a way that makes sense to you, how that process works, how the steps go from the client saying yes to you getting paid, and what happens in between, every step that you're aware of. You might be surprised at how eye-opening that can be. But at the very least, it will help you understand the journey your client goes through to try to pay you. So that's just as much or more important than some of the others. Okay. All right. So then we go to, okay. Yeah. I've got like 4 points in here. All right. So to sign up with some of these, you may already know, you will need some business information. I mean, I don't know what your business looks like if it's not, North America or UK based. I don't know how they do that differently, but they may do it a little differently. So understand that when you go to sign up for Stripe or Authorize.net or even PayPal, they may ask, you may need to have some documentation in place to prove that you're an actual business. What that looks like for every country and every situation is a little different. I will tell you that in the US, I'm set up presently as a sole proprietor because I can insure against other crazy things happening until such time as I'm ready to. There will be reasons for me to incorporate as an LLC, but that's not right this second. So how I set up these is different from somebody with a corporation trying to set them up and providing documentation. So there are different things that you may be required to do. Don't be scared of it. It's if they're going to assume that liability for you, these companies, they need to know who you are. So treat your business as legitimate. I'm not suggesting otherwise, but treat it like a real business. Even though you may have just sole proprietor information, which is in the US is very basic. That's fine. Still treat it like a business. Make sure everything is accurate. Make sure everything is not put in such a way that it looks shady, because these companies that do this, that handle this money, that get these fees, they're very experienced. They will sniff silly things like that out, and at the very least will deny you access to set up an account on there. At the most, it could end up in prosecution, depending, or getting somebody's attention whose attention you don't want. So make your best effort to be as legitimate a business as you can, even if you're small. That's okay. And to answer all the questions as truthfully as you can, anything that they ask for as truthfully as you can, and go through the process with them to set up. People who have problems with this are the ones that have other problems they need to think about. So try your best in setting up these to provide the business information as you have set it up and understood it. And if if it's even part of the way, I mean, if you don't have all the information they need, but it's truthful and they can verify it, then things will probably be okay, and you won't have anything to worry about. So keep that in mind when you're processing any credit card transaction, because you're hiring these companies to process credit cards, to process bank drafts, to even Apple Pay and Google Pay is not and Samsung. I don't want to exclude my Android people, because I'm an Android person. But that all of that is. No, I don't know what that's about. Okay, so that's really bizarre, huh? Phone just completely went off out of the blue. Okay, so wow, that really kind of threw me off. I didn't. Your phone's not supposed to do that in the middle of something, especially when it's muted. Okay, so just be legitimate about what you're doing, and good things will happen. Things will work out, and you'll have to provide that information to be set up to process credit cards and transactions anyway, to have legit places for them to be. Okay, so all right, so compare payment methods. We were talking about that just a second ago before my phone started eavesdropping on me. So decide what you're going to accept and what you're not in terms of payment methods. Okay, so Visa, MasterCard, pretty standard, that everybody is okay with accepting those. There may be other. I'll talk about a couple of the other credit card pieces in a moment. There's one, JCB, that is Diners Club, that has been around. They've sort of now hooked up with MasterCard because they weren't as well known in every place that they wanted to be. So they have. So they're pretty much good. Then you have American Express, which is a little bit different approach. And then we'll get into some of the other methods here in just a minute. Now, every credit cards charge somebody, usually the merchant, if you want good PR. They have to charge somebody fees for using their card, for a customer's ability to go around and use that card. So that it's okay. Yeah, they want to charge some. So the fees that Visa and MasterCard charge are lower as a whole than American Express is. American Express spends their money investing in security and fraud protection, and not suggesting the others don't, but they invest in some other things, and they have really elevated their brand as American Express to, and so they feel they can charge merchants a higher rate to accept their card. And so generally they do. So, for example, the typical final credit card rate, this may or may not be what you as a merchant pays, but it's 2.5 to 3 in it to, or so let's just say 3% for easy math. Okay. It's changed some, but, and how that works varies. Whereas Visa, MasterCard's 3%, American Express is 3.5% of every transaction. This is the fee they charge to process it, for you to be able to accept their card as a merchant, as a marketer, as a business, accepting credit cards. So, and they authorize that differently. They say to offer other stuff. So not everybody accepts American Express for that reason. Not as much as they say they do, but they have worked hard to be accepted primarily in a lot of different places in the world. So the idea is you can take that card and you can go to many different places throughout the world, and they they're accepting American Express where they may not accept others. So sometimes if you're traveling, that's a good one to have, versus not all the banks function that way. So then you have bank transactions. You have ACH. It's ACH, and there's differences between a wire and ACH and a bank debit, but it's mostly ACH, where there is actually a fee for that, but it's a lot less than, say, doing a credit card. Well, there are some trade-offs for accepting the ACH bank drafts. Number one, yes, it's a lower. They charge you less. They charge you maybe 1%, where the credit cards are charging you 3 and 3.5%. So it's quite a bit less in some cases. They also that's direct access to your account, to your bank account. So if something happens, they can use that potentially as getting access to your bank account, and there is no backstop like there would be a credit card for fraud. If there's a problem, you can clean out a bank account. With fraudsters can do that. The other thing that we learned the hard way is if you use bank draft, then ACH, and somebody doesn't like the service that they paid you for, they can, before a certain amount of time, pull their money back out. They can go to their bank and say, that's fraud. That's not working. I don't like that service. I want a refund. They will pull that money back out of your account that was sitting in there, and take it with them, which credit card is not necessarily that way. It could ultimately end up being that way, but it's not as easy. So keep that in mind if you're talking about accepting, bank transactions. It's a lower rate on everybody, but it comes with some trade-offs. Okay. So and then you have the Apple Pays and Google Pays and the wallets like that are pretty much, they're means to accept credit cards. Pretty much, they're not their own currency necessarily. You tie them to a credit card, and they work that out where they debit from there. So if you want to have that ability, that really only works if somebody's in person, if they're a physical presence. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter that much that you accept, say, Apple Pay on your website, or that you send them an invoice that accepts Apple Pay, because they really should be standing in front of you and processing that card. So you owe it to yourself to do a little bit of research when you're setting up payment methods, deciding which ones that you're going to use and which ones you're not going to use. And so it's worth doing, but certainly Visa and MasterCard, pretty standard. You want to add Discover, Diners Club, stuff like that, fine. If you're doing business in another country that has a payment method, and we're talking about the WeChats of the world, that's sort of its own payment method, You might consider that depending on where your business is and whatever comes with using that as currency. And so and tying it to your bank, or if there's some other service like that in other countries, you might explore the pros and cons of using it. So do some comparison shopping, do your homework. Most all of these payment gateway methods we've talked about support them. So just do that homework for yourself. And well, yeah, that's I guess it kind of went. So yeah, do some comparison shopping. Really map out how you want the payment experience to be for your customers as an agency. Take a couple of hours and really stop and think about this and saying, are we accepting the right credit cards that they're wanting to pay with? Can we do invoicing and then we send them a link to pay? Will that work for the particular clientele? If you're doing a lot of businesses, they're used to that. You send them an email with a link and they click on it and pay. Their accounts payable clicks on it and pays it. And it's not a problem. Or they do that with a credit card, or maybe they do that with an invoice and then there is some other way that they pay you through bank draft or what have you. Think about your customers, think about the process that's involved, and think about then the process how you want that to go. What is the easiest way for everybody? There's even some discussion about who pays the credit card fees or the bank fees. Well, guess what, Mr. Marketer, Mr. Merchant, you do. You should. Can you pass it along? Yes, you can. Should you pass it along? No. No, you should not, unless there is some real major reason why. Or you do like a lot of people, you build it into the cost of what you're selling, which happens all the time, and that's okay. But don't call out the fact that they're paying the credit card fees or the bank transaction fees or wire fees or anything else, because as soon as they see that, they're going to shoot you down. I promise. So really spend some time thinking about how that goes. Do some comparison shopping. And then the process is in putting it into GoHighLevel. Put your products in first into your payment gateway of choice, and then sync that to GoHighLevel. And you'll already have your process steps in place as to what you're going to do. And it should go really smoothly. So, okay, guys, we got through it. Talking phones and all. So it's been very, very heady. I apologize for that. There's really not another way to do it. Let me double check the comments here just for a second. Let's see if there are any. No, just people. Just looks like people checking in to say hello. So hello, guys. Thank you very much for being a part of this and wading through this with me. It's kind of tough. Trying to think if there's anything else in terms of questions, kind of how this could work. Some other stuff that I've come across, or some other items that I've seen. This is one of those things that like I said, you just got to take 2 hours in the beginning and just sort it out as to how you're going to do this. And periodically, it's not an or, it's you should do both. Periodically revisit it. Make sure that it's the experience that you want. Make sure that, sometimes these credit card companies have crept up on the fees, and maybe you want to do something different. It doesn't work for online, but it may work for your customers, for your clients that are physical brick and mortar locations. There are programs that ECI does, one of them, where and others like it, that you basically incentivize them to pay cash. They end up paying the credit card fees, the customer does, but it's called a cash discount. And so it's, you go in to buy a pizza, and it's $20 for a good whole round of pie, they call it in the Northeast. So for a whole pizza, let's just say it's $20. Or if you pay cash, it's $16. So I mean, it's a cash discount for doing that. You're essentially, it's just a clever way of, or trying to be a clever way of getting them to pay the credit card fees. and just disguising it. Because if you said it's $16, oh, and your credit card fee is $4, so it'd be like, no, you're not going to charge me that. Never mind, you're charging them that. They just don't know it. So it's a little bit of client psychology there. So but again, thinking through that process, thinking through how to do that is worth your time. It's worth a little bit of time invested, every few months to make sure that the system is working like you think it's supposed to. It's also worth it if you decide to change some of your pricing, and you go through, you've already got it in GoHighLevel through those payment gateways, and they've synced over to GoHighLevel, then you can go into GoHighLevel and change that pricing. But before you do that, try to do some research. Make sure you're getting paid what your time is worth. That's a whole nother subject we may talk about, and I did it too, about getting into the freebie stuff, adding a whole bunch of value things for free. And then suddenly when it comes time to buy, people may not need your services. Funny how that works. So it didn't necessarily happen to me, but once I saw it presented the other way, that no more free trials, it made a whole lot of sense to me in ways that it shouldn't have otherwise. So I don't know if there's any other topics on this other than it is worth your time and consideration. If you do have questions about it, drop them in the comments. Just put them out there in the group itself. And as some people have done, and all of us, I mean, there's other people that have different credit card experiences or different payment method acceptance experiences with GoHighLevel, with getting it into GoHighLevel. I'm sorry, it's not a perfect process. It's gotten a whole lot better. And if you do it the way I just talked about, where you put your products in your payment gateway first and then sync them over, it's a whole lot easier. But if you don't do it that way, it can be a mess. So, and it can be a mess of synchronization. So it's not perfect. So put your questions out there in the group, put your experiences so what you've done that's worked well. If there's a particular payment method of the 4, that's just to refresh. That is Authorize.net or Stripe or NMI or PayPal. If there's one that you use that you've had good experiences with, let us know, or something we need to look out for. Don't just sit there and say, oh, it's PayPal, I hate them. Okay, why? What was the experience like that made you hate them in terms of us processing credit cards here? We're all small business. We're all our own small business success stories, but we're also can be coaches too. We have stories to share. So put those out there as well. And the offer still stands from the beginning of the program. If you have some training you'd like to contribute, you'd like to show people how to do it, or something that you've done that is special, that you would be willing to share with this group, send me a private message. Let's connect up. Let's see what it's all about. And then if it's good, if it's something, cool and unique and helpful to everybody as a whole, then we'll get you out here on the training, and I'll walk you through it. So being on live on video sometimes can be a little intimidating. So, but I'll promise I will help you work through all that. Don't see any other comments, so I will say we're going to sign off for now. Now, I will put that webinar link in the chat. It's in a different Facebook group than this one. It's set up exclusively for this purpose. And I mentioned, for those of you who are in the Eastern Hemisphere, the time really doesn't work for you that well unless you just want to stay up till, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. That's fine. Love to have you. Australia, that's a little rough. It's about 2 or 3 a.m. For an 11 a.m. Eastern time start on Saturday for the webinar. But if you go to that website, you fill that out and fill your information out, and you are in those time zones, let us know, because then we will put you on a list and we will send you exclusive link to that webinar where you can watch it whenever you get up the next day, and you can see what it's all about, and you won't miss out on anything. So, and you'll also that way get into the consideration for the giveaways. If you just want to watch it later and whatever, and you don't come back and we don't know you're there, then you won't be in consideration for the giveaways that we're having. But if you had to miss it because of time zone, no problem. And we'll be back here, speaking of time zones, next Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday night for the regular Q&A. And we'll catch you folks in the Eastern Hemisphere, Australia, Sydney time, about 10 a.m. the next morning. And or actually, I'm sorry, it's about 9 a.m. the next morning, 9:30. So if there's anything else in the meantime, put it in the group for all of us to share and all of us to learn from. And have a great week and a great weekend. And we will talk to you very, very soon. Thank you.